Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Evan and John, and you're listening to the Boomer and X Show.
They're here.
It's alive! It's alive!
Wendy, I'm home.
So what have you two come up with?
Nothing.
I want you to tell me what these fellas look like.
Well, the little guy, he was kind of funny looking.
In what way?
He wasn't circumcised.
What about the other fella?
He was a little older. You know, he looked like the Marlboro Man.
Here's Johnny.
Do you expect me to talk?
Hey.
Well, hello. Guess who's back
what
from
is a podcast?
a visit? Spent 6 months with the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
And imagine my surprise when I came back to civilization and found out what in the world happened.
That's the
that New England was down 28-3 and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so we were talking about if making a joke, if anyone got their news strictly from us, then we needed to update them that they have a new president and that guy is Trump.
That's correct. And so we'll get to that. We will get to that. But yes, if by chance you are out there and you are relying on the Boomer and X Show for your news, A, God help you, and B, Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States. And that's as of midnight Central Time, going into May 16th, 2017.
You're insinuating something, I assume.
I'm insinuating that anything is possible.
So I don't want to say apologize. Well, yeah, let's apologize.
Let's apologize. I think we should.
We did not intentionally. I'm calling this season 2. John's calling it. We just straight up let life get ahead of us.
Yep.
But so no excuses. I mean, we did have a lot come up with work and life, and the podcast just slipped away from us there for a little while. Now, my main thing was, let's see, the first distraction was my little sister got married.
Well, we left off early November.
Yeah, our last one was with Patrick Neff.
Right, we had a little kind of a Halloween theme thing.
Yeah.
And I think when we recorded that particular episode at the library.
Yeah, at the library, yeah.
Right. Because there were some technical difficulties at the old studio, and we'll get to that in a minute or at some point. So yeah, we had Patrick on. We did a little theme show with the Halloween and scary movies and so on and so forth that got released like on November 2nd or 3rd. And
we hadn't been here since.
We have received communiques from listeners and friends that they know that you and I have somewhat different world and political views.
Are y'all still friends?
And since we have not put out a show since the election, since a week before the election, there were those that wondered if one of us had killed the other or something like that. And no, it's nothing like that. Like Evan started to say, and I'll shut up here in a minute and let him carry on. But
what was I saying?
Well, stuff, life, events, things got in the way. You had things get in the way. I had things get in the way. So we're just going to update our friends and listeners now, and with kind of where we've been the past 6 months. And I was just kind of kidding about that Dalai Lama thing. I really didn't go visit, spend 6 months with the Dalai Lama. Although, with the way the past 3 months have been, I wish I had.
Like I said, our first distraction. Whoa, hello, breath. Did you just Did you just exhale sharply into the microphone?
I did.
So,
Yes.
well, that being said, if this is our first and possibly
Our
how do you say
first.
this? Well, no, this is our first Skype over
Yes.
Skype. Yeah,
This is the first episode we've done where you and I are not in the same room.
yeah. So if it doesn't seem like I can see him, well, I can't.
Right.
And well, I guess I could turn on my camera, but you don't want to see me in my underwear, I'm assuming.
And you don't want to see me in mine.
You're not in your underwear.
Of course I am.
We're not both in our underwear right now.
Well, no, but we're like 10 miles apart.
I know, but still.
No, I am always in my underwear 30 seconds after I get in from work.
All right, well,
promise
this
you.
just got really awkward. So I at least have a robe on. I am in my old man robe, like no joke, plaid robe with the old man comfy slippers.
Yeah, you're wearing more than I am.
So, all right, so Krista, my little sister, got married, and then let's see,
This was in mid-November. There
yeah,
was
and then we had what's that
Thanksgiving.
month? Yeah, Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
and then Christmas, and then New Year's, and then as soon as I guess right the end of the year in January, you bought a house.
Well, it actually closed on a new house on December 20th
Yes.
and started moving over just after Christmas. And I had somewhat of an unconventional move method when I gave my notice at the apartment complex. I just assumed 30 days. It was just an assumption. I've lived there 10 years.
Oh yeah, it was 60 days, right?
It was 60 days.
So, yeah.
So given that that's what I had to work with and I had no choice in the matter, that meant that I was paid up through the end of January at the apartment, and my first mortgage payment wasn't due here until February 1st. So I took that as a cue
Yeah.
to move gradually, move between, on the weekends and some, before work. And I literally brought stuff out one carload at a time.
Yeah, you would like come into work with your car full and go out to the house after, and
Yep.
And you did that for about a month.
About a month. And also the place I bought, I'm very happy with it, but I wasn't happy with any of the colors, and I decided in the middle of work and move to paint the entire inside.
Yeah. And it looks great so far.
What's done?
What's done, but I don't know if we've ever gotten into this, but the studio it was always John's art room / guest bedroom, which we turned into the studio.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of in limbo of no studio, and that's, I don't want to say the main reason we haven't come back yet, but it's that whole move process and losing the studio, but that's kind of been a big slowdown on us coming back.
Yeah, one thing we did really with the old studio was we took a lot of my paintings and put them up on the wall to serve as sound absorption.
Yes.
And I don't know how much it's going to come through in what we're recording right now, but that is still not the case here in Studio B. So there's still plenty of work to do. Another thing that happened, and we're just kind of jumping all over here, but as soon as I got into the new townhome out of the apartment, work hit with two months of weekends.
Back-to-back OT like crazy, huh?
Yeah. In fact, over a span of 8 weeks, there was right at 100 hours of overtime for me. So
that takes away your personal life right there.
Well, it takes away when you're trying to unpack
and paint
and everything. So a place that I have been in since the end of January looks like I got into it about a week and a half ago. But the painting is coming along, the unpacking is coming along, and
the studio is going to be magical. I mean, we're going to have to start being on air Not on
Some
here.
video.
Yeah, video. We got to,
Yeah, we want some video.
because we're gonna do it up nice. I mean, the way John's doing it, it's gonna be worthy of a camera on us.
Yeah, I have a pretty fair amount of sports memorabilia, and I want to put it up in the studio to go along with some of my artwork. Again, the art will kind of serve as sound buffers, but I do want to put the sports memorabilia up in a way that kind of lends itself to us having some video at times. Because one thing that we do once we get into football season is we do talk a good bit about football, and even though this isn't a sports podcast, it kind of becomes a sports podcast during that time of the year.
That's true.
So yeah, we're gonna the studio is going to be fancier. It's going to be nicer than it previously was, and what we want to do is we want to bring it to our listeners, and so let them see. I guess YouTube. Would we
YouTube.
Would we go on
We
YouTube?
actually, yeah, I was looking at doing live, just stream it while we actually record.
While we record,
So what would be cool is
well, first of all, what would be cool if we were wearing clothes when we did that?
well, we would have, that would be a must. But not, I mean, so far we've done what, 57 episodes, and all 57 of those we were both clothed. So but we were also sitting knee to knee sometimes.
Just about.
So
And we'll have a little more room in this studio as well.
Sure will. I'm excited about the new studio, and I know our listeners are, because that means we'll start popping out episodes like normal again. Should we get into the whole talk we had about the podcast?
Sure. Go ahead.
So we actually, because we took an unplanned 6-month hiatus, and John brought it up.
It got on my nerves.
Should we just end it? I mean, just do a farewell episode. And me, being the way I am, was like, no, we just took a little break, simple as that. Now, when we come back, we'll be back. So that's
is this your promise?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
It is. Like I said, so in my mind, for us getting back, so even if we have to do it over Skype for the next however many episodes, that ball gets rolling, and we get back to the, listening to our own voices too much and editing that, all that. And once we get all that going again, man, my juices are flowing. I still am a podcaster at heart, because when I hear something and I see something on the news or whatever, I'm like, oh, it's going to be cool to talk about that on the podcast. So that hadn't gone away, and until it does, I don't want to stop podcasting.
Well, and I did, and again, there have been logistical challenges from both of us.
Yeah.
And that has kind of started to smooth out a little bit, at least to the point where we can do this now via Skype, even though it's going to be a while before the studio is up and running. And I've come to you a couple of times and said, look, it just didn't seem like it's going to happen, and I hate to leave it hanging.
Yeah, because
so
we sure did leave it hanging.
We left it hanging.
And I even told him, I said, look, I mean, podcasts take seasons, They'll be,
but we didn't announce.
But we did exactly. We didn't
announce it.
Yeah,
and I really got to the point. Let's just do one and say goodbye and thank you, and we enjoyed it. And you're like, no.
That lit a fire under my butt to actually get back and do it. So
yeah. So
a combination of life occurrences and a combination of, I guess, laziness is why it's been so long. Of us. Laziness more on my part, because John was sitting at his computer, I don't know how many times, waiting on me to call him, because John was more the wait, when are we going to do this party, and I was more of the, well, we got this, and this. I was the excuse maker, huh? What did you say? I kept saying we would do it, and then we wouldn't. I mean,
well, right, and I said, and I finally just said, what's going to be different going forward than has been, from what the past few weeks.
If we haven't done it, what's going to be
right?
The
if we haven't done
it, that makes it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here anyway.
This is it. This is the thing.
This is it. We're back. We are not in our final form by any stretch,
No.
as we've spoken of up to this point. There will, for the foreseeable future, these are going to be done via Skype. I don't know
and I
how
have
much
these,
difference in sound that's going
That's
to
what I was
make.
about to say. We have these headsets that I got. Until I hear post production, I'm not going to know really how it sounds. Hopefully, it sounds as good in my ears as you do, right now in my headset.
It definitely sounds very rich in the headset.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. It sounds great. In fact, when I take you off of my my phone, when we were talking on the phone before we got on the computer, the difference in sound was amazing.
Oh yeah. But compared to this is better.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely
Yes.
better than a phone call, that's for sure. And I mean,
So
and Neff, we've had Neff on the show via Skype, and that's never been a trouble for us. So.
that's true. That's true. And I guess he was via Skype the last episode we
Yeah.
did, and yeah,
So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on quality.
yeah.
So let's get into some of the stuff. We both have had some life events happen that I want to share. And
Yeah, you jump in. Go ahead.
So the first thing, this is a we thing. At our work, we had a lip sync battle, and this is at the
At the
Christmas party.
at the company Christmas party.
And so we got a team together, me and John and two other guys, and they're both listeners. Well,
They're listeners and friends. Let me
Yeah.
say, when you came to me and said you wanted to do this, because there was, what was there, like
a $200.
$200, and if we split it up 4 ways, it'd be $50
Yeah.
each. And you said, but not for $50. And what did I say?
Not for $5,000.
That's what I said.
And so
That's what I said.
I'm like, all right, challenge accepted. So I know with John, it's the song that matters. So I come up to him and I'm like, what if we dress like ZZ Top, and play
Yeah.
some ZZ Top? You're like, oh, that would be cool.
I said that would be cool, and I said, and here's one reason to be cool, because they don't do anything but
Yeah.
stand
Yeah.
there,
You
and
would
I
have
can
to-
do that.
And
I
you
can
said,
stand.
and here's where's funny, knowing what we ended up doing. You said they just stand there and they don't dance or anything. Okay.
Yep.
So I got him. I got him hooked. He's on the bait. He's on the hook. All I gotta do is set the hook now. So now I'm like, all right, what's a song that he would sing no matter what? And boom, it hit me. I don't know what I said. Let's do the Blues Brothers.
Yep.
And you're like, oh my God. And then from there on, it was like, oh, we could do this and this and this. And so, how many times did you listen to Sweet Home Chicago?
Well, you said Blues Brothers, and you were thinking Soul Band.
I was thinking, what's the other one? Jailhouse Rock.
Oh, yeah, Jailhouse Rock. And
Yeah.
I said, no. I tell you what, the scene where they are doing the big show at the Plaza, Crown Plaza, whatever showroom or whatever it is, and the last song they sing is Sweet Home Chicago before they dance off of the stage together. I said, let's do that.
So he goes from no, not for $5,000 to doing it for a possible $50 and dancing, like with another
you.
guy. Yeah.
With you, yeah.
So that was a quick 180 in a whole span of 4 hours.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
But
so
you were right. It was all about the song.
Oh,
We did
yeah.
a song I love.
so John downloads the song, or no, you had the album already.
I had the soundtrack to Blues Brothers. Yeah.
And we were legit, y'all. We practiced at my house. Everyone came over. We did instruments because they have guitarists and trumpets and stuff. So two of the guys. Let's see. Who was I? I was Leroy
You were Elwood.
Elwood.
Yeah, you were You were Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. And
Elwood.
you were Belushi.
I was John Belushi, which is Joliet Jake. Yeah.
Yes. And we had a trumpet guy who was Juan, and that was Steven, right?
Stephen was
the trumpet, and Juan was the
guitar. Now, for those that haven't seen me, and that's most of our listeners, some of them are friends, some of them have seen me. I am. My build is very similar to John Belushi's.
Yeah, it is actually. Now I'm nowhere near looking like
No, because he's like
Aykroyd. Yeah,
he's like 6.5 feet
6'8".
tall. Yeah, but I'm built a lot like Belushi, and so we went on Amazon and we ordered the hats and the skinny
hats,
ties,
the glasses, the top
the
hats,
glasses.
which I still have and
I
wear
still have mine
occasionally.
too.
Uh,
And we came out in full costume
yep.
with the coats and ties and black shoes and white socks and sunglasses. And
Man, that was
I
so fun.
was it was a
It was
blast. It
so
was an
funny
absolute
because
blast.
so John really, I mean, so we did all this practicing and we had it nailed down packed and until like the day before. I think the day before I messed up our little dance scene every time.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that obviously added stress on your part. And you're like, all right, are you gonna spin left or right? Because that matters. And I was like, what? My whole demeanor. I'm like, whichever, whichever I go. You're like, no. Perfectionist
Yep.
mentality is like,
Yep.
is it 4 steps and then a left turn? I'm like, just fly, go with it, whatever I do. And so, anyways, we go out there and we rock it. And it was really fun. The audience really loved it. And then they did a weird vote. Oh, the way they did the voting, uh, a lot of people didn't even get to vote. I mean, we got second.
Yeah, we got second.
But
There were 5 performances and we were last, and I was so glad we were last.
yeah,
Um, just because I feel like generally the what go you save the best for last.
yeah.
But um,
I
yeah, we
I
came
like
in
going
second.
last because they vote as soon as we, it's like, all right, we get off the stage and then immediately they vote. And I was like, oh well, we're the last thing they saw. But even with those in our favor, we still got second. But I mean, even still, people say stuff like John. Honestly, how many times did you listen to that song? Maybe 1,000.
I'll say this. Of course, I had it on soundtrack,
Yeah,
and right after we decided to do this was when I drove to North Louisiana to see family for Thanksgiving.
yeah.
And it's a 3-hour drive each way, 6 hours round trip. I listened to that one song on the soundtrack the whole way up there and the whole way back.
Yeah, we would be practicing, okay, and we're like, all right, so when the trumpet comes in and then the guitar solo starts, John would go 2:16. Like he would say the timestamp every single time. And we're like, oh yeah, so when me and John start dancing, yeah, 1:14. Like, Jesus, dude, like
Yeah, I had it down. I had it down, but that was so much fun.
oh yeah. So
You know,
we're already,
yeah.
like when I hear songs and stuff, I'm like, ooh, that could be a good one for a 4-man group to if they even do it. I mean, they might not even do it.
It was a lot. I think they might do it again because it went over big with the crowd, and not
Yeah.
just us, but it was a crowd
Yeah.
pleaser, the
And
whole thing.
I've heard multiple people say it. It looked on. I mean, I know it's lip sync, but no one nails it perfect. But I've had a lot of people say, "Man, it looked like John was actually singing that song. Like, couldn't tell at all any
Well,
difference."
and remember, because and you just said, and I have to take. I'm guilty as charged. You called me a perfectionist just a minute
Oh
ago.
yeah.
And remember when I went to the um, head of the HR and I was asking some questions about the
Yes.
stage setup and
Yeah.
everything, and I said, "Well, what about microphones?" And she said, "Wait, there's no microphone."
Yeah.
I said,
Just
"No."
pretend you're holding the mic. So we
And
actually use the Boomer and X mics.
so I said, "We need mic stands." And she said, "There's no mic stands." So you built
Yeah,
us
I
2
forgot
mic
about that.
stands.
I actually built them that which every all of our opponents used,
Used them, yeah, because if you
and our mics. They used our
yeah,
mics too.
the clip from, of course, they weren't live, but I needed them for props.
Yes, an
I needed
actual
them for
real
props,
prop,
yeah.
or yeah,
Because if you ever, for those of you that have seen the Blues Brothers and you see that on stage, John Belushi interacts with his mic stand a lot. And I wanted to mimic what he did. And
so not for $5,000 turned into $0, which I
right.
still have the little trophy they made us. They made a little paper trophy with the microphone on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got
we got
participation
participation,
trophies.
which I cherish a lot. And it's funny, anytime I walk, so the HR team ended up winning it. And when I walk in their office, I'm like,
Fix,
yeah, for real.
rig,
I walk
rig.
in there, I'm like, hey, you want me to take that off your hands for you? It's kind of cluttering your desk up. So anyways,
So
that's December. That
Yeah,
was in
that happened in
December.
December. That took up a lot of time. We rehearsed it for it to be not quite a 3-minute segment. We rehearsed a lot, and that was kind of my insistence.
Well, I honestly, I had a lot of fun on the stage, but I had more fun just doing all that with you and those other two guys. That was real fun. Just the practice and all that.
I had a lot of fun on the stage, but I was scared as shit before we
Oh, I
went
know.
on the stage.
John was like literally like pre-gaming, like drinking, so he was like drunk on stage. I was like, dude, you're gonna be all loopy and stuff. I'm
Yeah,
like,
but I
no idea.
wasn't. I wasn't.
You
I just
came
had
in
just
there, so I found out John is a very happy drunk.
I am.
Shows up cheesing and like smiling at everybody and
I am absolutely. Even a little bit of buzz, and I'm just the friendliest.
hugging people and kissing them
Yeah,
like
yeah,
what's his name on the Family Feud.
right, right. Um,
So let's talk about the Super Bowl.
okay,
Another nugget
let's.
of news that if you only listen to this show for your news, I feel bad for you. But the New England Patriots somehow won the Super Bowl, and what was it, 28-3
It
at
was
one point?
28-3 at one point. Yeah,
I can't
it
remember the
was.
final score, but the Patriots won by 7, I think, huh? No,
I don't even remember the final score.
it was so funny. The Falcons owner was down on the field before halftime celebrating. Like we won, and nope, they they came back and as much as I just for whatever reason don't like Tom Brady, that was impressive. I
It
think I
was impressive. You can't take anything
no
away from it.
no you
I
can't.
mean, I was pulling.
Incredible catches, incredible passes. I wanted the Falcons to win.
I can't say I wanted the Falcons to win, but I can say I wanted the
New England to lose.
Patriots to lose. Yeah, yeah. And I was pulling for a negative to happen in that game. I
Well,
was. I remember during the when uh, when New England went up 21-3. I got a text message from my son that really shocked me because he should know better than this. He follows football enough. We've had him on the show before. Um, when they scored the touchdown 21-3, he sent me a text, game over.
when they went
No.
down 21-3.
When New England went up 21-3, he sent me a text, game over. And they even got up. I'm sorry, New England wasn't up.
Okay,
New England
yeah,
was down.
yeah.
Yeah,
When New England was
yeah.
down,
And Atlanta actually ended up being 28-3 ahead. They were ahead 28-3,
yeah,
and
that's
game still wasn't over.
still though. I mean, historically, got to be the biggest comeback ever.
It was, yeah,
I mean,
it
had to
was.
have been. And man, here's my thing. The whole why here's what I think. Here's my whole wrap up of why Atlanta lost. They wanted to prove Matt Ryan is an elite quarterback and can win it on his arm, and they did not run the ball as much as they should have with that lead. And to prove that that he won it. He was the reason they won, and not. And so they ended up giving him way too much time. And
Well, yeah, look, it's easy to second guess. Somebody that loses a game when they were up 28-3.
I mean, I remember even thinking live before the comeback started, before the New England started coming back. I was like, run the ball, run the ball. They got Devontae Freeman. I mean, run the ball. And they
I'm
won.
going to go with a little bit of a different angle. And
It's
you
fixed.
know this. You know this. The listeners may or may not know it, but I am so big on the psychological aspect of sports.
Yeah, you are.
And you just okay. A couple of things went wrong. They're up 28-3, but then a couple of things go wrong. There's turnovers and then a score, and you could just see Atlanta starting to tighten up, and they started playing tight. And yeah, should they have run the ball more? and eat up more clock? Yes, I say they probably should have, but I'm not a big believer in going into a shell and just three running plays and you're three and out and you're kicking the ball to the other team. I think if you're a passing team, you stay true to what you are. They did run with success, and I'm not saying they shouldn't have run a little more, but I'm just saying don't get up 28-3 and then stop playing football. What got you up 28-3?
Yeah.
Um,
Which I think was their passing. I can't even remember. He was picking that secondary apart pretty good, wasn't
well, yeah, they were up 28-3. Of course, one of those was a pick six.
he? That's true. That is true.
One of those was a pick six, but I just New England scores and all of a sudden it's 28-10 and then they score again and there's plenty of time left and you just saw them get tight. Are we going to lose this game? Are we going to be the biggest chokes in the history of the Super Bowl? And if you start thinking about, oh my God, we've got to do something so that we don't lose, instead of thinking, oh my God, we got to do something so that we win, I think you're 2/3 beat right there. I do.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, obviously it got to them. I mean, they dropped the ball quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I lost my life savings betting on that one.
Speaking of football, the national championship game was between Clemson and Alabama was an
Yeah.
amazing
Rematch,
game. I wish that we had been. There's been so many things over the past few months that I wish we'd been doing the show, but I would have loved to have talked about that game right after it happened. Alabama got up by a couple of scores.
Mm-hmm.
But Clemson just refused and they came down late in the game and drove to win. And of course, I think all of us in Louisiana that aren't, for whatever reason, you might be a Bama fan, your favorite school to hate is Bama. So
Most definitely.
I was definitely pulling for Clemson. I like their coach. How can you not pull for somebody named Dabo Sweeney?
Yeah.
I like the quarterback. I like the attitude that the coach brings and the enthusiasm. So not only in this case was I pulling against Alabama, but I was also pulling for Clemson. And that game was a tremendous game. It might have been one of the best national championship games since they've gone to the BCS title, which was back in the right around the end of the 1990s. So yeah, there was some certainly a lot of football happened while we were gone. You and Katie recently had a very unique first ever adventure for the two of you. Why don't you fill the listeners in on what you guys did, and I'll talk about something I did for my first time ever back last month also. But you go ahead.
I will go ahead as soon as we get back from this break. Alrighty, we are back. That, if no one knew and you live under a rock, was the song Sweet Home Chicago by the Blues Brothers, and that is the song John and I danced to. and Steven and Juan. Let's give them credit where it's due.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought the four of us put on a great 2.5 minute show. I really did.
Sure did. So that was the song. If when we were talking about it, you didn't know what song we were talking about, that was it.
Yep.
So this life, what did you call it? Life changing,
Kind of
it was a
first,
big life event.
Yeah,
It was a good first, yeah. So, Katie, my wife,
who has been on the show.
She's been on the show, yeah. She big fitness lifestyle, and she's ran a couple of marathons. And the first one she ran was in honor of her older brother who was in the Marines, so she ran the Marine Corps Marathon. And then she ran a local one here called the Zydeco Marathon. And she's ran a couple of half marathons and countless 5Ks, but she wanted to run Boston. She's always wanted to run Boston ever since she got the crazy idea to run marathons. So she actually when she joined a charity team, and she got accepted. So what's nice about being a charity team in Boston, you have to qualify, and it depends how your age and everything, what time you have to get. But she was never at her current speed gonna get qualifications. So she went through a charity and she got accepted on this charity team, and all she had to do was raise a measly $7,500, which was a lot, especially if you've never raised that type of cheese before. Something that's pretty cool. So once she gets on this team, when we got married, 2014, she gave me this book, big old thick book that she'd been working on since we were dating, of like pictures and quotes and all this stuff that she and I have said. And in there was her bucket list that she gave me, kind of like, hey, let's do this bucket list, as we grow old together. And number one, you want to know what it was?
I'm going to say run the Boston Marathon.
Run the Boston Marathon. So we got to scratch off in our late 20s her number one on her bucket list. So that was so the whole fundraising. If no one's ever fundraised, do not go in it half-heartedly. It's a commitment. You got to bug every single person you know and all of their friends. And we didn't really do it a bugging way, but man, just especially social media, hitting it up like every day, and I wish there was a way to, like, it was such a fully enveloping process that it felt like it was never going to end. But we did, I say we, it was mostly Katie, but the only thing I really planned was a volleyball tournament. And, that raised all of our hotel and expenses and all that. So we didn't call that a charity fundraiser. We didn't call it a charity. We called it a fundraiser. We didn't want to lie and say your money's going to charity. So that was our fundraising event. And everything else, though, was for charity, and it went straight to the charity. The charity she's on is 261 Fearless, which is Catherine Switzer's team.
Team in what? What do they do?
The charity team.
No, I know, but what does this team do? I mean, what's the purpose behind the charity?
So Catherine Switzer was the first woman to ever run a Boston Marathon.
Okay.
In her day, 1967, 50 years ago, she was the first woman, and they believed women would burn their ovaries and not be able to bear children anymore if they ran that distance. So she said, you know what, screw that, I'm going to prove y'all all wrong, and went and ran the marathon. So that was her mentality then, was, I'll prove y'all wrong, women can do whatever, and that's her mentality still. And through this charity, she's about empowering women and she wants to do it through running. So running is something you can do from birth. Once you learn to walk, you can learn to run, and then you can run from the rest of your life. And if you have people telling you can't, doing little simple things like run, they're most likely telling you can't get an education, or you can't get a driver's license, or you can't, that's still happening today in this world. So that's what she's trying to empower these women who think they can't because someone's telling them they can't. So that's what those dollars goes to, empowering women through running around the world.
And this woman ran this year.
She did. 50th year anniversary. She ran it when she was 20. So she was 70 when she ran it. When she was 20, she finished in 4 hours and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was 70, she finished in 4 hours and 40 minutes.
Do you know if she's run the Boston between her first time and this time?
I'm not sure about that, but I know
Mm-hmm.
she has.
Well, obviously she's run others.
Well, she won the New York Marathon a couple of years after she ran Boston.
Okay.
I say a couple. It could have been 15 for all I know. But she won the New York Marathon sometime after she ran Boston.
Right.
Well, I'm jumping all over the place. So, all right, this was not her second marathon.
Well, it wasn't her. It may have been her second Boston. We don't know.
It could have been her second Boston, yes.
Okay,
But I'm
right.
not 100% on it. I doubt it. She's a Bostonian, but
she's probably done it.
But
before.
she's in the media, so she always covered the race every year.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably took her away from running it. I'm assuming if she was covering it. So she ran it. She did great. That whole experience. So first of all, first time to Boston for me.
It's the first time you've ever been on a commercial flight.
Yep, first time I ever been on a commercial flight. First time I ever went on a subway. Dude, a lot of firsts for that trip.
My little Evans growing up.
We went to the Cheers Cafe or Cheers
did you?
bar. Yeah.
You didn't tell me about that.
Yeah, we went to Cheers, and I told Katie if I could have planned it. They actually, what was cool about the charity team, they did their meetings and stuff at historical places and like they had Catherine Switzer. They celebrated her all week. She was on the news every day doing interviews, and I mean, she was a big deal. And she did the first pitch at one of the Sox games, or the Sox at Fenway Park. So we did.
Tell me something. How the accent? Were you exposed to a lot of that?
Not a lot, but there was one guy I was talking to. So Katie and Katie's boss, and she was running the Boston too. And so anytime they were doing like team meetings and stuff that they're just kind of talking about logistics of the race and stuff like. I wouldn't go to that stuff. So anytime they went and did that, I would go just sightseeing. And I went to this bar, and I was talking to this guy, and I was trying to find out so first of all, they shut Boston down for Patriots Day. I mean, it's a thing there. And so the bar was shut down, but the guy came in and said, I opened up the bar, but I didn't open up the kitchen. I went in there just to get a burger because I just wanted a nice greasy bar burger, And so I was talking to the guy for a little while, and he's like, well, what do you do? And I told him what I did. And I said, well, what do you do? Or I can't remember how I said it. I didn't say, what do you do? But he said, I do cause. And I was like, cause? like cause and effect? Like I'm thinking like in my industry's mindset, like cause and effect, like if an accident happened, like what caused that to happen?
Right.
I was like, cause and effect. He's like, huh? And he looked at me so weird. I was like, yeah, like cause and effect. What do you do? You do cause. He's like, I do cause. I work on cause. I was like, cars, got you, cars. I was not kidding, dude. That was
cause and effect.
That was embarrassing. When I said cause and effect, he's like, what did you just say? So that was one. And
that's
really
pretty
only.
Good. Yeah.
What was one? Oh, Park. That was pretty funny. A good one. There's this guy. He was a bike courier. And he goes up to this spot and he's like, "Hey, there's nowhere to park." I was like, "That's." So here's something funny. While we were there, we brought Louisiana's weather with us apparently,
God, no one. I mean, no kidding.
When I called you, I was like,
85,
yeah, I called you
86.
and I was like, yeah, it was 86 degrees. You said, no way. I said, yeah, I was in it all day. It was 86 degrees. So you look it up like the weather nerd you are, and you're like, dude, it was like 1 degree from the record and all
One
this.
degree from a record. Yeah, but there was one thing you told me. You said, well, the wind was from the east. I said, no. I said, that if it
Yeah,
got
no.
that hot, I said, no, the wind had to be from the west because if it's from the east, it's from the
It
Atlantic
would have been
Ocean, and the
freezing,
Atlantic
yeah.
Ocean is very cold.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and they got to 86 that day, and the wind was out of the west southwest at like 15, 20, 22 miles an hour all day. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was, yeah.
So the weather. So I was talking to this lady at one of the event. We were at event from event just with that charity team, and so I
Yeah.
was talking to her, and I said, you know, don't take this to offense, because she was talking about Boston and Bostonians and everything.
Right.
I said, don't take offense to this, but y'all have a reputation,
Right.
of kind of being jerks and stuff like, hey, I'm walking here, and she's like, oh yeah, that's because the weather's so nice. I was like, really? That's it? She's like, oh, catch us on a sub 40 day, and you
And
got
they're all
and
nasty.
they're all nasty. I was like, okay.
Caught them on an 86-degree April day.
And they're all running around like singing in the rain, like they're all,
Yep.
man, they're happy. They were happy. The whole trip was just amazing. Now, Boston loves their marathoners. Absolutely loves them. I mean, they are celebrities. I was a celebrity just because my wife was running Boston. I mean, I went to that same night that I was talking to that bar keep. He sent me down the street, a couple blocks to a place where they were serving food,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to that guy for a while, and he asked why I was there, where I was from, and I kind of told him. He's like, "Oh, your wife's running Boston. Your money's no good here." I was like, "Wow, okay. I mean, this is cool." And I wasn't even doing anything but just there for support.
Mm-hmm.
When we went to Cheers, I wanted to go in the bar and be like, hey, when we walk in, say, hey, Katie, like, say, like they always do. What is it? Hi, Katie.
Norm.
Yeah. So
Norm.
I wanted them to do that, but didn't.
No.
Wasn't able to swing it. So some of the fundraising things we did. I talked about the volleyball tournament. We didn't get to do a trivia night, and I really wanted to. She did a 30-mile run, and they had like people donate per mile and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What did I put? Oh, we did an art class. So that's that. I'm just running down my list here. That was stuff that she did to fundraise. We went to a movie premiere, a movie called, I think it was either called Boston or Boston Marathon. It was
Mm-hmm.
about the Boston Marathon,
Okay.
and we went to the Wang Theater, and it was built in the 1800s, and
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing. I mean, gold lined angels on the ceiling and like all this crazy art, and I brought my nice suit and everything just because she said we're gonna go to a Wang Theater at a movie premiere. I was like, well, that sounds nice. I'm gonna dress up. And
Mm-hmm.
man, I'm glad I did, because if I would have worn what I usually wear, like a
Right.
polo and something, I would have looked like some trash.
Yeah, that
Uh,
wouldn't have
I mean, there
been
were
any
people
good.
showing up in limos, and I mean, you've been to a movie premiere, so you
I
know.
went to one last August.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know what it's like, but this one was so the lady, Catherine Switzer, was in it. She was a big part of it because she was the first woman. They started filming this in 2008, and obviously the bombing became a big chunk of that movie. And like I said, again, you've been to one, so you know the people who are in it are all there.
Right. They're all there.
And
Yes.
they're all there. They want to see it just like they want to see everyone's reactions. And now these aren't actors; these are runners and stuff. So it's not really like you're talking to actual famous actors or anything. But in Boston, they were famous celebrities for that week for sure.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
it was a great experience. Our daughter, my mom and dad watched her for the week, and we were there for a week, 7 days straight. And that was our first time being away from Gracie. The marathon was incredible. I mean, if you ever want inspiration for life itself, go to a marathon and just watch one-legged blind soldiers carry their guide for the last 2 miles across this finish line.
You told me that everybody that's running to raise money for a charity, they start off behind It's a staggered start because you can't get
Yeah.
all those people in one place at one
Yes,
time. So
30,000
30,000.
racers. Actually, was a million spectators this year. It's usually around 600,000. So is a pretty big showing. So what they do is they start the men's wheelchair first, and then the women's wheelchair, and then all of the hand cyclists and stuff like that. So they were cruising. I mean, they finished in like an hour and 20 minutes or something. It was insane how fast they finished. Then they start the elite women and then the elite
Mm-hmm.
men and let them take off. And by the time Katie started, all of the
Mm-hmm.
elites had crossed the finish line. They're done, you know.
Right.
They're
Right.
already getting their gold leaf hat and everything. So the race started at 8. Katie didn't start running until 11:15. And then they do that. They do the after the elites go, they do the actual qualified runners. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the people who qualified to be there, and they let them go, and then they do charity runners
Mm-hmm.
in corrals. So Katie was in corral 4, so they did 1, 2, 3 corrals in front of her, and then she finally went. They all the whole team 261 Fearless charity
Mm-hmm.
team, they all ran together, and obviously not as a team, they run at their own pace and everything, but it was pretty cool seeing and the whole time they're just every time they even got the camera got close to Catherine
Mm-hmm.
Switzer, they would, talk about her and talk about the
Mm-hmm.
team, and it's pretty, just me just beaming with pride, because my wife is a part of this. And
Mm-hmm.
what was crazy is the amount of money they had to raise 7,500, and all the other charities is like 1,200, 1,500, to be
Well,
at,
why is that? Why the difference?
because the person over the charity sets the number, and I guess they knew a lot of people they turned people away from their charity because they only were given so many bibs.
Mm-hmm.
So they were only given, I think, 200 bibs. So they had I think they wanted to raise 100. I think they wanted to raise $1 million. So they could only do so much. So they put a high number on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did end up getting their million. They had, some match programs. I mean, the charity runners alone didn't raise all the money. They had some companies do matches and stuff like that. But
Right. Right.
they, but it was the highest charity to be a part of, and that was,
Mm-hmm.
of course, the one Katie ended up being in. But it was an incredible experience. We met people from all over the world. We did the math, and this is a world event. I mean, people from all over the world come. A 4 millionth of a percent runners at that event out of the world. 4 millionth of a percent people in that run. So pretty cool little stat, I guess. She was one
Mm-hmm.
of those 30,000 in the entire world. And I mean, we were thinking about it, as a nation, 30,000 out of the country, that's pretty cool. But then when you think about, no, this is out of the entire world, 30,000, people that are allowed into this,
Mm-hmm.
and she was one of them. And I mean, because there are people who qualify that don't get to run Boston. A lot of
Right.
people qualify and don't get a bib, and I mean, we're talking with people from Austria, Australia, Paris, Berlin, just all over. A lot of them were on this charity team. They had an international little quadrant of, people who wanted to be on Catherine's team.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to hang out with a lot of them. There was this one Irish dude. He this dude was drunk every time I talked to him. I mean, he really lived up to the Irish stereotype of just drinking all. He was drunk every time I talked to him, but he was a real cool guy. His wife is 55, and this is her first marathon.
Right.
And but I mean, I could talk about it even without you asking questions for probably another hour. So, do you want to move on, or do you have any questions?
No, I think it's. I mean, I think we've got a pretty good idea. I do want to ask you something. Does she plan on ever running Boston again?
Yes, and she wants to do another, and actually, she's already been accepted on another charity team for another marathon at the end of the year. She's going to run the St. Jude's Marathon, and go through the
Which
whole,
would be in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, Memphis, Tennessee. And, so she has two big goals coming out of Boston. We found out there's something called the World Majors of Marathon. So Boston's number 1. Tokyo, Chicago, New York, Berlin, Paris. No, London. Did I say London?
I don't think so. So Chicago's one of them.
Yeah, Chicago, New York, and Boston are the 3 in the States.
Okay.
And then London, Tokyo, and Berlin are the other 3. So she wants to do those 6.
Do all 6 of them.
And obviously they're in no order.
Right.
Because she's doing the Memphis this year. So unless she qualifies for all of them, she's going to have to be a charity runner for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I see in my future a lot of fundraising in the future for sure.
I see that in your future as well.
But it's fine. It's the stories that you get out of it are just incredible, man. It's the people that run marathons, they all are a special type of person, and they all have a story. Katie's got an incredible story, and everyone there has you've got guys that were on the brink of suicide that instead of committing suicide, they flip it around and make a after school, paid after school program for kids, and then they start helping kids, instead of, so they take their pain and turn it into good,
Yep.
And it's just incredible, all the types of stories you hear at these events. So, you got your veterans running. That's the craziest thing. You're watching a blind dude carry his guide because she cramped up. And so he just picks her up and carries her across the finish line. The dude's blind. How many? There was a guy, I have real good friends with him. I went out and I talked with him every day at the expo. I went and talked with him a couple of hours. His name's Alan. He broke his leg running a fun 5K. A couple of days before Boston, he was like, "Screw it, I'm still doing it." He crutched the entire thing.
Wow.
On crutches, and he finished in 6.5 hours.
Wow.
Dude, man, just a lot of cool guys and a lot of cool people. I had a great trip. Katie had a great trip. It's life-changing. She's got all kind of aspirations and dreams that have come out of it, and I'm sure she's going to tackle them all. And I'm going to just be there for the ride the entire time. So, that's Boston for me. You, sir, did something pretty cool.
Yeah,
It was the first ever, right?
It was the first for me.
No. First ever of this particular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Of this particular thing. As many people will know, as soon as the current president took the oath of office, there was a fairly large segment of the population that was unhappy about it, and I would say more so than just your normal, hey, our person didn't win. This is at a whole different thing, and in subsequent episodes we will hit political things harder, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to say I am one of those millions that feel like, for more reasons than I can even go into, we have someone currently serving as president of the United States that is unqualified in every possible way you can be unqualified. So that, and a lot of people feel that way. There are some that are devoted to him with a religious-like fervor. And then there are those of us that I kind of dislike him with the same amount of passion. And out of that has sprung up a lot of different marches, protest marches, other forms of activism.
Well, they had a big women's march, right?
There was a big women's march the very day after.
Yeah.
The very day after, which, believe me, I get it. I totally get it. But one thing that kind of threw me a million things through me, but one of the things that I'm still trying to get a handle on is 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump in the presidential election. And I don't want to get into the wheres and the whys and all, but that's the numbers, that's the stats. 53% of white women voted for him. It seems like the other 47%
we're at that march.
We're at marches all across the country that took place the next day. And anyway, subsequent marches have taken place, and myself being a scientist and being someone who believes that we advance as a human race through science and study and learning, and not through religion. I value science. I'm a meteorologist. I'm passionate about weather, studying weather, looking at it. I'm very interested in climatology, aspects of climate change, but science in general, not just limited to weather and climate, but science in general. So on April 22nd, there were 600 marches for science, because this administration is very anti-science
around the world
in a lot of ways.
Around the world.
Well, this administration is very anti-science, but yes, there were 600 marches around the world, which I find one of the things I have found very fascinating is that the rest of the world pays so much attention to what the United States does, and it has been uplifting to see other, countries around the world taking part in those of us that here that are showing resistance to this current administration. So anyway, there were 3 science marches for science of the 600 that were going on around the world. There were 3 here in the state of Louisiana, one in my hometown of Shreveport, one in Baton Rouge, and one in New Orleans. And I went to the one in New Orleans because I joined up with a friend over there, and she has been a political activist for much of her adult life, but this was the first time for me to ever actually join a march. And I went. They estimate the crowd at the New Orleans march at about 5,000, and we gathered at City Hall. And there are some speakers now. The sound, the setup for the sound wasn't adequate for being outdoors and covering a large area, so I didn't really hear a whole lot of what was said. I caught some of it, but what you saw was some very, very interesting signs, very creative, some of them very serious, some of them comical. And when I got there that day, and I kind of saw the flavor, and that funny was represented as well as serious. I got there that day, and here's what I wish I had made: a 2-sided sign. And since I'm a big movie buff and a big movie fan, I was going to go back and grab a couple of 80s movies. One of them I was going to I thought about having a picture of Donald Trump and having equal signs, and then having a movie poster from the movie Weird Science. Are you familiar with the movie Weird Science?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the other side, I was just going to have a thing for a movie poster like from the Revenge of the Nerds, because those of us that are in science will admit we're nerds. We admit it. We are. That's just part of who we are. It's part of our makeup. So I actually found myself wishing I'd kind of, thought about that beforehand and done it. But be that as it may, I really enjoyed being a part of the march. I enjoyed the feeling you get as you're moving down the street with a lot of people that share your particular feelings and emotions and thoughts about what's going on at the time. I will probably do it again, and not necessarily with the Science March. This was the first ever, like you alluded to earlier. This was the first ever Science March. I'm assuming there will be others. It happened on Earth Day, so some of the signs, a good portion of them were related to Earth topics, but then there were other topics as well. A lot of them having to do with health and vaccinations, and just kind of touching on the different ways that science helps make us healthier, helps make us better, helps extends our lives. The new knowledges that are brought to us via science. So it was somewhat emotional for me, just in that, again, it felt the connectivity with these other people that were like-minded. I've also done something else in response as a part of my activism toward what's going on now. I joined the ACLU. I am now a card-carrying member of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, and what they do is they do a lot of legal representation, or they will take to court certain government entities that they feel like are acting in opposition to the U.S. Constitution. And I figured that they needed some of my money, and so they get some of it every month now. And I have subsequently, since I joined up a couple of months ago, I have read that Donald Trump is their most successful fundraiser and membership drive ever. And moving forward, there's certainly something that I am going to want to touch on from time to time.
Definitely, we've got different views on it. We always have. And I think it would make for some great podcasting. We have hopes that we will get a very intelligent speaker on one of the big matters. Did I say that vague enough, John?
Yeah, we don't. I've tried to make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. So we are trying to land an expert in a certain field that
to talk about some certain thing
is of great conversation and dialogue right now. Yes, and I hope we're able to do that. But the March for Science was enjoyable. I felt good about it. Becoming a card-carrying member of the ACLU, I feel good about. Those are two ways that I am a part of the, quote, resistance. Yes, we have a name. I don't think you have to join. I don't think you have to sign up or anything. If you're opposed to it and taking some form of action, I think you're a part of the resistance, and I certainly consider myself that. But to our listeners, the ones that have been with us all along or for some of it, or the new ones that come aboard, I want to definitely say thank you. We never forgot about you. Believe me, you were a part of many conversations, some frustration, especially on my part, that we had
left y'all hanging
for so long.
I love the I think it was an email we got. It was, "Are y'all still friends?" I was just bust out laughing. It's like, because I mean, it was terrible timing. I mean, it's like as soon as the election happened, we just stopped.
We disappeared. We were unannounced. We disappeared.
It's like, well, they're not friends no more.
But I won't make any promises as to when we'll be back, but I will make the promise it won't be 6 months from now.
I will also make that promise. This was fun, John. We're back, man.
Feels good.
Yeah, it does feel good. So now
I love this.
We just need to get back into the groove of editing. Hopefully,
we're gonna be here for a while. It's gonna take me a while to get things, because I'm flying solo, so if I don't do it, it doesn't get done, and there is work, and there are other activities that come about. But I do have a 3-day weekend coming up on Memorial Day weekend where I have intentionally not put any travel or activities in, and I feel like I can make some pretty good progress on that 3-day weekend here at the house/studio. But again, thank all of you for anybody listening to this, thanks again, and we will be back.
Were you about to say a day or something there?
Well, whether it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I don't know, but we will be back, and with more regularity certainly than we than we have of the past half year, which it wouldn't take much to clear that bar. But
oh no, if we do one in the next 3 months, that's like twice as much as we put out.
But it won't be that long.
No, it will not be that long.
No, it won't be that long.
I don't know when this one's coming out, but when it does come out, I will promise in the same month we'll get another out.
Yeah, it will.
And I know you don't want to promise nothing because you hate breaking promises.
I do hate breaking promises.
This is a promise we ain't breaking, so I can say it. So, I mean, like I said, all I needed was for us to come back, and we're back. So, ball's rolling. It's going to stay rolling until the next president comes in and we defriend each other, apparently.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, love y'all. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, bye-bye.